Just imagine an archive containing 600,000 oral reports. Now, that's not some hypothetical estimate. It's the actual staggering volume of historical data that early Islamic scholars had to deal with. To handle this, they didn't just skim through it. They applied a filtration system so precise and so unforgiving that it basically stripped away everything that didn't have absolute verification. What survives is Sahih Bukhari, widely considered the most authenticated text in existence, second only to the Quran. While the final count includes 7,563 narrations, that number is really just a distilled residue of the original mass. So we're left asking, how can we be certain that words spoken 1,400 years ago are still accurate today? I don't want to just give you a list of quotes. I want to move beyond the lists and reveal the filter itself, the rigorous science of verification that transforms oral history into a reliable archive. This is an exploration of how human memory and historical records were audited long before the digital age, and why that actually matters right now. Imam Bukhari didn't just operate in some cushioned academic vacuum. He lived the search. He traveled thousands of miles across scorching deserts and rugged mountain passes, relying on nothing more than wild leaves to survive, just to verify a single transmission. This was a lifelong, total obsession. I mean, consider the timeline. He started this monumental task before he was even 10 years old. While his peers were playing, he was documenting chains of narration. It's honestly difficult to grasp that level of discipline today. We live in an era of immediate, unverified answers. But Bukhari walked for years, enduring profound physical exhaustion and hunger, just to ensure that a sentence spoken over a millennium ago reached us exactly as it was uttered. The physical cost of knowledge here is just staggering. It demands a different kind of respect. The pursuit wasn't about ease, it was about permanence. When you look at the verification process, you see a very specific structure. Every hadith functions like a split screen. The isnad, which is the chain of narration, and the matan, which is the actual text. Think of this as a postal record, requiring multiple verified signatures for every single leg of the journey. The isnad lists the names, tracing the transmission person to person. The matan is the payload, the message itself. This process reached maturity during the 3rd and 4th centuries after Hijrah, the golden era of formal compilation. And the scholars didn't just read the text, they scrutinized the orthography and the vocalization. A single misplaced vowel in the matan could alter the meaning entirely. They treated these words as surgical instruments. If the isnad was broken, or if the matan contained an error, much like a corrupted digital file, the narration was discarded. They were auditing an entire history of human memory. And this is where we encounter the golden isnad, the most trusted, error-free chain of narration in Islamic history, often cited as the gold standard for authentication. Now, the process becomes almost forensic when you examine Ilm al-Jar wal al-Ta'dil, the science of verifying narrator reliability. Scholars didn't just check if a person was pious. They analyzed the isnad through a critical lens, scrutinizing memory capacity, character, and consistency. If a narrator was honest but experienced fading memory and old age, a whole chain could be downgraded. One mistake, one lie, resulted in a corrupted record, and the narration was tossed. Consider the scale. Over 1,000 years ago, the Islamic scholarly community maintained biographical records of at least 100,000 hadith narrators. This was a massive, searchable database. If a narrator traveled from Basra to Kufa, scholars knew exactly whom he had studied with, who he had avoided, and whether his recollections matched those of his peers. it was an intellectual dragnet designed to catch even the smallest slip of the tongue. I can't help but contrast this with our current era. We consume information in 10-second clips, often without a second thought. Yet the labor spent to verify these words was almost superhuman. These works of the science of Hadith remain within our reach today, allowing us to see exactly how the sound, good, and weak reports of Prophet Muhammad were separated. It's overwhelming to realize that centuries of labor were poured into this process so that we wouldn't have to guess. This accessibility makes that same level of scrutiny possible for anyone willing to look. There's a strange comfort in knowing the filter was so strict that the surviving words carry a weight modern shortcuts cannot match. So, let's look at the payload, the 10 authentic hadiths that serve as tools for character shift, authenticated by the rigorous standards of the scholars. Think of this as a psychological blueprint. It begins with intent. Actions are but by intentions, which basically tells us that the why determines the quality of your work. This links directly to reliance or tawakkul. Tie your camel and then trust in God. You balance practical action with faith, doing the work while letting go of the outcome. This sets the stage for how you treat others. None of you truly believes until he loves for his brother what he loves for himself, shifts the focus from ego to empathy. From there, you govern your output. He who believes in God and the last day, let him speak good or remain silent. This isn't just advice, it's a discipline of speech. Now consider Imam Muslim's obsession with this level of accuracy. He would famously not record a hadith without performing ritual ablution, showing that his physical state mirrored the weight of the words. This carries into strength. The strong man is not the one who wrestles. The strong man is the one who controls himself when he is angry. This redefines power as restraint. It's bolstered by kindness. Kindness is not to be found in anything but that it beautifies it. Then comes modesty. Modesty is part of faith. This suggests humility is a requirement for growth, not a weakness. Then your purpose. The best of people are those that bring most benefit to the rest of mankind. And when you stumble, because we all do, you have the recovery plan. Fear God wherever you are and follow up a bad deed with a good one. Finally, your outlook. The merciful will be shown mercy by the most merciful. These aren't passive quotes. They are active adjustments for the human mind. Now, some people ask how we can trust these books as foundations. The scale of the project provides the answer. While Bukhari is primary, we have Sahih Muslim, which is highly regarded for its clear arrangement. We have Sunan an-Nasai with 5,758 hadiths, known for its extremely strict authentication process and tough standards. We have Sunan Abi Dawud with 5,274 hadiths, focusing on jurisprudence and daily practice. We have Jamiat Tirmidhi with 3,956 hadiths, which grades narrations as authentic, good, or weak, while including the opinions of different scholars. Finally, Sunan Ibn Majah with 4,341 hadiths, gathering unique teachings on worship, business, and social life. The consensus among scholars regarding the authenticity of the narrations in Bukhari and Muslim began in the first era of Islam. They aren't simply accepting tradition, they're utilizing a rigorous forensic verification process to ensure the truth. When you see these teachings, they appear less like religious rules and more like a map for the mind. They address the same struggles we face today: managing anger, understanding integrity, maintaining focus. I've often wondered if we missed the point by treating these words as a list of obligations rather than a practical manual for human improvement. The fact that this wisdom was preserved through centuries of scrutiny makes it uniquely reliable. It forces you to pause. Here is a detail that causes pause. Even with the Sahih label, the conversation doesn't end. Experts have occasionally critiqued specific sound hadiths. Scholars have debated whether certain narrations in the two Sahihs meet the exact conditions stipulated by Bukhari and Muslim. This sounds like a contradiction, but it's not. These debates didn't weaken the hadiths. They were arguments over the exact specifications of the foundation. This level of intellectual honesty is just jarring. They weren't trying to protect an image. They were trying to define the truth with absolute precision, even if it meant disagreeing with their peers. We arrive at a specific tension. We possess the authenticated words, the scientific proof, and the psychological blueprint. But there is a persistent, unresolved reality, the gap between possessing this information and applying it. We have curated the most rigorous archive in history, yet we often leave the books on the shelf. The science of the isnad confirms the text is sound, but it cannot force the implementation of those words in your daily behavior. The filter was applied to the books, but is it being applied to our own lives? We began with an archive of 600,000 narrations and arrived at a refined core of truth, filtered through the sacrifice of scholars like Bukhari. The process, the isnad and the matan, was an audit of human memory, ensuring a voice from 1400 years ago could reach us without the static of error. We have the golden isnad and the biographies of 100,000 narrators who were scrutinized for the slightest inconsistency. Yet, we are left with this reality. We possess the authenticated words and the scientific proof, but the most important filter remains unused. The scholars did the heavy lifting to ensure the integrity of the text. The challenge now lies elsewhere. The filter has already been applied to the text. The only remaining question is whether you are willing to apply that same rigorous, uncomfortable filter to your own daily life to see if these words actually change you.